Bonjour, salut, c'est notre texto. C'est notre texto, non. C'est notre Tuto text aujourd'hui. And this text Tuto is taken from this book, which is a very old book from the 1960s that my dad gave me when I first said to him that I'd like to teach French. So it's quite a few years ago that he gave me this, and it's absolutely charming, and it's extremely old-fashioned, and it's full of old-fashioned ideas and things. But interestingly, the French actually hasn't really changed that much. I think if you took a comparative book from the 1960s in English, you'd see that English has moved on quite a lot, but actually maybe it's credit to the French, I don't know, depends how you look at it. The things haven't changed enormously in terms of the language. All right, now these texts from this book, they are like a lot of different textbooks. They sort of like focus in on one particular grammar point, one particular tense or something like that. And this is no different. So this one, what this is going to focus us in on, I'm going to read it to you in a minute. It's got a little bit about how to finish letters. It's got a letter in it, but it's going to focus in on some of the pronouns that we drop in to sentences and just see those in context. Right, so let's get started. So, quand on a passé quelques jours ou quelques semaines chez des amis, on est obligé d'écrire des lettres de remerciement. So when you spend a couple of days or a couple of weeks at your friends' houses or at your friends, you are obliged to write a thank you letter. Ce n'est pas toujours très amusant. It's not always great fun. John est un garçon très poli. Il sait qu'il doit écrire à Madame Bourgeois. So John is a very polite boy. He knows he's got to write to Madame Bourgeois. So this is obviously who he's been staying with. Now this is when we start to realize how old this is. Il prend l'encrier et le met sur la table. Il sort son stylo de sa poche et le remplit. Il a aussi mis du papier à lettres et des enveloppes sur la table. Puis il s'assied sur une chaise et commence. So he's taking his ink pot and putting it on the table and is filling up his ink pen. And I have to admit, I am of the age that I learned to write with an ink pen. Madame, les Français doivent être beaucoup plus cérémonieux que les Anglais quand ils écrivent des lettres. Il faut dire cher ou cher seulement aux personnes qu'on connaît bien. So he's saying it's much more formal to write a letter in French. So if you're writing to someone that you would use vous with, then you would say Madame ou Monsieur. You'd use the cher ou cher, dear, with someone that you know a little bit better. Pretty similar to English, really. And this is the masculine and this is the feminine. C'est avec regret que j'ai quitté votre beau pays. Je veux vous remercier des magnifiques vacances que j'ai passées avec vous. Vous me les avez rendues tellement agréables. So it's regret, but with regret that I left your beautiful country. I'd like to thank you. Now that's a nice little phrase, isn't it? You can use that for any thank you. Je veux vous remercier. Now there you go. So je veux, and then the you is just dropped in. Do you notice? That's a pronoun. That's just dropped in front of that second verb because we've got two verbs together. So I'd like to thank you for the magnificent holidays that I passed with you, I spent with you. You made them so agreeable. You made them such fun. Vous, me, so you, to me, them, made so great. Okay, so you've got two pronouns in there. And they have a specific order, pronouns, and I can show you that another time. So me and les. J'ai que bien commencé, pense John. Oh, I started well, thinks John. Maintenant, il faut continuer. Qu'est-ce que je dois dire encore? So now I've got to carry on. What am I going to say? Il mord sa plume, puis il la tourne et la retourne entre ses doigts. So he bites the end of his pen, and then he turns it and turns it again between his fingers. Il écoute un peu la radio, fume une cigarette et fait des rondes avec la fumée. So he listens to radio a little bit, smokes a cigarette and does some smoke rings with the smoke. Mais enfin, le temps presse et il le force à recommencer. But time is getting, precious, is running past, so he needs to get started again. So here we go again. Vous avez tous été si gentils pour moi. Vous m'avez reçu et vous m'avez traité comme un membre de la famille. So you were all so kind with me. Pour moi, that's a pronoun. You received me. When you go around to someone's house, it's actually it's called to receive someone. So you had me round. And there we go. You received me. So the m is dropped in there. Obviously, it was an apostrophe because you can't have two vowels next to each other. So vous m'avez reçu and you treated me like a member of your own family. So then you notice the me just gets in front of that verb. John a remarqué en effet qu'en France, la famille, même un cousin très distant, a beaucoup d'importance. So John noticed in effect that in France, family, even a distant cousin, had lots of importance. Je suis revenu ici avec un souvenir inoubliable de la France. So I came back here with an unforgettable memory of France. Grâce à vous, j'ai pu visiter l'Alsace en détail et le voyage que nous avons fait à travers la France a été vraiment splendide. So thanks to you, I was able to visit Alsace in quite some detail, and the journey or the journey across that we did across France was really splendid. Hier soir, un programme sur la France a paru à la télévision. So yesterday evening, there was a program about France on the television. J'ai reconnu bien des endroits et je les ai nommés à ma famille. So I easily recognized the places and I was able to name them for my family. So, j'ai reconnu bien des endroits. Je les. So we're referring back straight away in the second half of the sentence. That's the pronoun, yes? So I named them for my family. Merci de toutes vos bontés et merci aussi à Monsieur Bourgeois. So thanks for all your kindness and thank you again to Mr. Bourgeois, also to Mr. Bourgeois. Je vous prie de recevoir, Madame, l'assurance de mon très grand respect, John. Now this might seem like really overdoing it, I beg of you to receive, Madame, the assurance of my greatest respects. But these are sort of like formulaic endings to letters in France that you just expect in informal situations. Okay, so if I'm just going to scroll down to here, so you've got these are very formal ways of finishing. Well, you can see yours faithfully, yours sincerely, with best wishes, but they're all quite formal. But you wouldn't use any of those, would you? Well, maybe with best wishes you would, with a friend, but these are formal situations. And this veuillez is actually a form of vouloir, but it's an incredibly formal version of vouloir. There you go. So you see that on signs when they're asking you to do things or not do things. Actually, it's a very formal way of saying vouloir. I just put meilleur at the end of my when I sign off, or bis. It depends who I'm talking to, of course. I mean, if I was writing a formal letter, I would just use one of these formulaic approaches, but otherwise I just put bis, which is kisses, B-I-S-E-S. And then this is just a nice little table here of those pronouns that we've just been using. So there you go. So you know these, but it's just a nice way to see those in context. So there's, and then we had a little bit of Louis and then we had a few of those in there as well. So it's just quite nice to see a text where they're using a few pronouns. But I think you see these pronouns in use all the time, and they probably just go over your head. You just say, well, you just accept it because you know what they mean. But do you use them? And so that's the difficulty, isn't it? It's sort of like trying to find a way to get so comfortable with them that you can just pop them in the same way that you're hearing them. Because when you hear them, you recognize and understand them, I think. Fantastic. Has anybody got any questions?